Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I-Man here from the Block Runner, and today it's finally here. NAT.FUN.
Like we promised, dude.
It was only behind a month.
Several months.
Not a big deal at all.
No, I mean, this is part of the course, right? Good things are worth waiting for. Am I right?
And good things have happened over this last month.
True. Yeah, maybe it's like perfect universal alignment. You know, maybe
That's what they're telling me, dude.
maybe these are more optimal conditions for NAT.FUN go to market, or you know what I mean? Maybe
We always hope to launch in the bear market
for sure. Well,
because there's a lot less noise.
right. and
People
we're-
are looking for stuff.
yes, and typically it's like not many people are actually iterating
Yeah,
on anything of substance during a bear market because
correct.
I don't know, they feel less motivated or incentivized to do so, right?
Which is odd because now's the time to be looking for stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we spent our whole on-chain careers seizing these times in the market cycle, right? Like this is excellent. This is our
Yes.
time. This is where we find like the next verticals of interest, right? Or things that will likely gain much more broader interest over time, you know?
Yeah.
Things like during the 2020 era, things like NFTs,
Yep.
things like the metaverse, things like DeFi. We were in those trenches before,
That's right.
you know, the masses came along. So, and then fast forward to the next bear cycle, we were talking about ordinals,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the DMT ecosystem, all this stuff before the masses showed up. And so
Yeah.
here we are again, dude. What's it going to be this time?
Introducing a new primitive. We're exporting the value proposition of Bitcoin to Solana.
Right. Yeah. What is that value proposition?
It's hard data being leveraged to launch tokens against. And really, it's a fundamental problem with NFTs, which have been dead for a long time, since really 2021.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of this is that with NFTs, creators launched a token, an NFT collection. They set some sort of arbitrary price. You know, it's like it created a market cap that had only number go down technology, number go down potential. And we saw that systemically across 2021. Everything is down like 99.99%. And it was the issue of setting that market price. And so with NAT.FUN, you're launching a fungible token on a bonding curve that if it graduates, then NFTs actually get distributed
Right.
to the actual token holders. And then the token holders set the market price discovery of the NFTs.
Yeah. So that means if you're watching this now, the platform is live, meaning you can go to
That's right.
NAT.FUN, type that in your browser, and you will enter this whole new, you know, digital arena. And it's gonna look a little different than what you're typically used to. If you spent time on any of these
Absolutely.
other like token launch services like Pump.Fun, Believe, Zora, you know, Printer, whatever, you name it.
Yeah.
They all basically have a very similar experience. I mean, they do the same things basically
Yeah.
under different narrative umbrellas and such, but this is, we've tried our best to architect a completely new experience.
That's right.
For that very reason. It's just like oversaturated the existing market, right? It's just
Yeah. So why the name? Why is it called NAT.FUN? So NAT stands for non-arbitrary tokens.
yeah.
And it's a new class of tokens born from Bitcoin. And so these new class of tokens are going to be launched on the Solana chain, on a bonding curve. And because it's from Bitcoin, you are launching tokens against patterns on Bitcoin. And so if that pattern occurs again, new fungible tokens, new UNATs, unique non-arbitrary tokens, or NFTs, get created based on the pattern occurring on Bitcoin. So that's why it's a new class of tokens. And so again, you're launching a fungible token. If it graduates, NFTs get distributed. So that's what this represents. And we have everything is against Bitcoin. So again, if the pattern occurs again on Bitcoin, there are new fungible tokens, new UNATs being issued. And then this is just a very clean example of what you're going to be experiencing. So once you graduate a token, if you're part of that class of users who have a token graduate, well, NFTs are in your wallet. And there's going to be like an unboxing experience that you're going to go through, and then you can list them and start doing the price discovery for
Yeah.
the NFTs.
Yeah, the reason why this is interesting is because it's not again, a traditional like NFT unboxing experience, right? Where whatever gets minted to you is completely arbitrary, right? Per the creator's design. In this case, it's all anchored to specific data within a Bitcoin block. That's what this little, what's happening on the left of this little laser beam.
Yeah, this is the Genesis block of Bitcoin, by the way. So if you look that up, that's what this is.
Right, and that's what's cool about Bitcoin that's completely undiscovered and underappreciated is like every block that's ever been mined, it's a substrate. It's an open canvas for creative abilities, right? And we've seen this happen with things like NatCats, the NAT token itself. Every time a new block gets mined, there is a specific field of data within that block that tells the world how many tokens get emitted.
That's right.
So that's what converts Bitcoin into this like arbiter of digital existence, basically. It decides what manifests in the digital realm, so long as it's using like the DMT framework, right?
Yeah, it's just using the Bitcoin blockchain for a new use case. That's all that's happening.
Yeah, and there's like a whole deeper lore why that's important, but we don't have to go into that now.
Yeah, so built for builders. So as you launch a token as a creator, let's say you're launching an art collection. When that fungible token is trading on the bonding curve and post bonding curve, you are generating fees. And so when there's volume on the fungible token, you get fees as a creator, which allows you to continue on your project.
Yeah.
And you're aligned with your community because you don't have to sell any of your tokens, which sends a bad signal to your community.
Yeah, so this basically solves the dilemma of, we recognize through our time in ordinals and the NFT space, the market really likes free and fair.
That's right.
And creators like to deliver those types of free and fair, mint experiences, but at the same time, they're not aligned to continue down like the responsibility pathways that come along with being a creator.
There's just no incentives.
Right. Typically the incentives were like front run, meaning like I create something, I set price to something, and then I get delivered value when people mint my thing. And then that's it. That's the end of the roads of aligned incentives in most cases.
Yeah.
Unless they hold like a significant portion of the supply, but then you got that negative dynamic where your exit is your community.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So it's not a healthy ecosystem. These are largely the components to what dried out the NFT ecosystem.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So all this is directed to solve those problems.
Yeah. And on top of this is, I want to launch something, but I don't know how to create
another problem.
An NFT collection. I don't have the skills. I don't have the artistic ability.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's most of us, actually.
Yeah. And so with the advent of AI, it becomes just a little bit easier to create these collections. And so we built a tool called the Vibe Studio that allows you to talk with an AI and actually build a collection.
Yeah, which is actually more complex than you think. Like building a collection, like there's actual code required to generating these scripts that give you these permutations of an asset that's, again, rooted to data on a block, right? To be able to figure that out without AI, basically impossible.
It's very, very difficult to do, yes.
Unless you're already like,
about Bitcoin,
That's already your life. Not just Bitcoin, just like, developing things, creating things. But now with AI, it's significantly simplified this whole builder experience. So therefore, we feel like it's worth, broadening access to.
Yeah, for sure.
In the same way, like TikTok, the reason why it's such a successful application is because it broadened access to like a video creator, video influencer. But before you had to know how to like edit things. Instead, they built like a whole suite of tools to like streamline the editing process.
Yeah.
And give people filtering ability. So it's like snap of a finger. You use your phone, use your app, and you're off to the races. Yeah. And you're part of the creator economy. So this is very similar in that scope, right? So you're part of the creator economy using this tool.
Just like you're seeing on Twitter, and a lot of people are creating these really good AI videos, and that's because of these tools, right? You're not going to be able to go out there and do a bunch of CG to build a good video. Now you could just do it with AI, and it's the same premises here. And so speaking of an economy, the NFTs that get distributed is based on the creator selecting either a Solana NFT or a Bitcoin ordinal. And so it's totally up to the creator, which class of NFT are going to be distributed. So, but we have this AI tool that you can start using. It's completely alpha. So we'll show you what that looks like in a second here. So finally, you can also bring your own agent. So I've been doing this a lot. I'm running OpenClaw, and I also run Hermes.
Oh yeah,
Hermes is pretty good too.
is it better?
I guess in some ways it's better.
Wowzers.
In some ways, yeah, but not in every way.
Okay.
So
that's
what that means, right?
Yeah. It's either or situation, I guess.
Yeah, but
can't go wrong with either or.
Running
basically.
both at the same time, it's actually the way, because as one is doing one thing, the other is doing the other.
Interesting.
And like you can run them concurrently, and you can point them to this website, and I'll show you how to do that. And you can have your agent actually create the collection.
Yeah, that's wild.
Right. So if you spent a lot of time with your agent already, it kind of understands your vibe. You can actually take that and create the vibe in the form of an NFT collection. Yeah. And it's at no cost, right? You just use it, right, through your agent.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, so that's, again, another broadening of access. You know, AI as a field, as a technology is already, fulfilling on that expectation pretty well. It's expanding humanity's capabilities like across the board. So we're doing everything we can to kind of leverage that, because we want to see like a legitimate resurgence of creation, the way crypto used to be, right?
Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah, like memes are cool. Meme coins are great. It's cool that people can speculate on, ideas, culture, vibes, whatever. But there needs to be some sort of creative output from all this energy that's like conjuring within these rails, right?
Yeah.
We feel like that's the sorely lacking component to why, like, from the outside looking in, there's like nothing of substance, nothing to really point to as crypto as like an inspiring vertical, like, how it used to be. So
yeah.
We feel like we're at that right inflection point where we can really bring it all back by piecing together all this stuff. Right?
Yeah. And to summarize, so you're launching NATs, non-arbitrary tokens, and if they graduate, you are distributing UNATs, which are unique non-arbitrary tokens.
Right.
And so this is what the platform looks like. So we got the header, and then we have a dual market ecosystem. So the left side are the non-arbitrary tokens that have launched and graduated. Yeah. And then here are the graduated NFTs that have already been distributed. So here you're just looking at dummy data, but when you go to the site, it's going to look, much different than this.
Yeah, it'll be what you guys make of it, basically.
Yeah. And so what you were talking about earlier is that this is what differentiates this site from all the other ones who do this exact same thing.
Yeah, like you're typically used to some sort of feed of like, token portraits like these. But the only data you see is like some sort of market relevant data, right? Price action, holder accounts, things like that. And like a brief description and like an image of said token. And that's about it. That's the extent of like what's relevant out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But in our case, again, the big differentiator here is, I think, like the commoditization of Bitcoin's block data, right? Yeah. And so therefore it's front and center on display here in every portrait, right?
Yeah, so let's dive in onto one of these. So I'm going to click on a random one, and you'll be taken to the actual token page. So there's a banner here that as a creator you can sort of edit and kind of create whatever banner that you want. And once you scroll, you see a different sort of interface that you're not used to. Again. And so in this interface, you have the fungible token price up here, as you would see. And then on the right is the normal kind of like swap widget that you're accustomed to. And then over here, you have the about section, holders, activity, and your inventory. And so in this inventory is where you would hold the NFTs. And then down here, this is the new part, right? So let me just kind of get rid of this chart here. You have a bunch of NFTs that are part of this collection. And so if you look in the about section, the UNAT supply that you're looking at here is 2016. The non-arbitrary token supply is around 811 billion tokens.
Right. Yeah, and both of those assets came from the same launch, basically.
Yeah, the same pattern, which is, the pattern name is HTX. And so you can discover patterns on Bitcoin, give them names, and then actually leverage those patterns to launch tokens against. But yeah, so this is an example, right? This is an example output of the Vibe Studio. And this is just one very small example that you could do pretty much quickly. Like, this is a one-shotter, right? So you can spend a ton more time with your agent or with the embedded agent on the site to actually build a much, much more complex collection here. But But this is just a very simple example of the output. And so there's 2016. And then last thing here is if you click on the filter button, all these traits can be filtered for. So let's look for the dragon familiar. And you can see how these NFT collections have a little dragon kind of flying there.
Very nice. Well done, dude. I'm impressed by your artistry.
Yeah.
Pretty good, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, and to remind everybody, like, this was conjured up simply through the written tongue.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you really need.
If you speak English, you can create collections.
That's the only, you don't even have to graduate from high school, dude.
No, you don't.
It's perfectly fine if you're like, you know, if you decide to pivot away from the education system, which is probably not a bad call this day and age.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are suggesting that.
They're thinking of such.
Yeah.
But don't skip that English class, though.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to need that one.
Yeah.
All right. So, so this is just a simple token page. Now, this is what it looks like after it graduates.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
So let me bring back the chart here, and let's take a look at what it looks like before it graduates. So it's very similar.
And just for some context, graduating just simply means it's achieved some sort of market value at some preset threshold, right?
Yeah. So in this case, the threshold is 100,000. Mm-hmm. So that means that if your collection launches and it reaches $100,000 market cap, it would graduate where you take the funds that are on the bonding curve and you seed that as liquidity in the DEX environment.
Yeah, just like Pump, basically.
Yeah, just like Pump. Yeah. So down here, you'll see what we call a BlockPad. And so when you launch a token against a pattern, let's say HTX, well, that pattern has a specific collection of blocks on Bitcoin that have that pattern. Mm-hmm. And so if I zoom into a number here, this particular block here is block 489935.
Yeah, which was probably mined like a decade ago.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, and by the way, you can look at this little timeline widget here, and I'll zoom in. And you can see the entire timeline of Bitcoin from 2009 all the way to 2025. And this particular pattern occurred once in the history of Bitcoin, back in 2018.
Yeah, and again, without some human like deciding that this was the case, right? That's kind of the novelty here. It's kind of abstracting away like this human prerequisite for determining existence of things and instead relying on Bitcoin as that source of truth, which is why it's so powerful, because Bitcoin is the most powerful truth machine humanity's ever invented.
That's right. That's right.
Literally, like it's insane.
Yeah.
If you think about it that way.
Yeah. So what you're looking at here is literally 2016 blocks of Bitcoin. And the reason why you're seeing the exact same image is because this is a test token and I own all the blocks.
Right.
And so this is my profile pic here.
So you definitely don't want to buy this, right?
No, you definitely do not want to buy this.
You're not going to rug them, are you? You hold the power, dude. Yeah.
So now imagine that there's multiple people minting these blocks right before it graduates. Then you're going to see everybody's profile pic, right? So it's going to be like a conglomeration of everybody's pictures here.
Yeah.
And so as you're buying on the bonding curve, you're actually allocated these blocks, which will go into the inventory. So as soon as you buy, blocks go into your inventory. And if it graduates, those blocks turn into real NFTs or UNETs in this case.
Yeah, so it's cool. Like even when it graduates and it's on the NFT gallery page is on display on this token page, the toggle is always there as like a forever archive, basically, of who were the participants of the mint. Because assume this one pops off and it becomes a major cultural phenom like Fartcoin did on Pump, right? It becomes $1 billion runner.
That's right.
People are going to want to know is like who was participating in these mints, and you just go to the BlockPad.
Yeah, you switch on this little toggle,
and you can see literally on a per block basis who claimed it, who owned it, who was basically part of history, and that's a new flex, new angle of flex that didn't exist before.
That's right. That's right. Okay, I think we can move on here. All right, so this one's really important. So if you're a creator looking to launch something, you think this is cool, there's a playbook at the very top that allows you to read the creator side in terms of strategy and also the collector side in terms of strategy. Now, this is quite the read, but it goes really in depth as to what to expect for an ecosystem like this. There's definitely new expectations, new requirements if you're going to be launching on a platform like this. But most importantly, it just guides you on what to expect when launching a token.
Yeah, so take the DMT pill. That's basically what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Just take it. Don't be scared. This is actually peer pressure.
It's only peer pressure, right? Not a big deal.
Just throw it down the gullet. Don't
don't think too hard about it.
Yeah, let your third eye expand, dude, because you're gonna definitely see crypto in a whole different way once you do actually take that pill. You're never gonna want to go back. That's
yeah. You're not gonna look at crypto the same way after you take that pill.
correct.
All right, so launching a token is pretty simple, right? There's actually two paths. You take the simple path or advanced. The simple path is, as you would think, is pretty simple. It's basically like a 10K collection, a 10K UNATs, and roughly 3 billion fungible token collection. So you could take the simple path. You pick Bitcoin or Solana, and you kind of fill out the information. You don't have to have a vibe, right, to launch a token, but it's a good idea to have one. And so you could just select one here.
So when you say vibe, you literally mean like the collection.
The actual collection, like code.
Right.
Right. So you don't have to have it to launch. You could launch a token and then publicly kind of figure out what you want to do with your, with your token.
Yeah.
And then if people are vibing, they're liking what they're seeing, number will go up, it'll graduate, and then you could develop the code after, or you could develop the code before and kind of showcase the new stuff that you're working on here. And so it's important to kind of walk through this part here. So I'm going to just put in some dummy data, and we're going to continue. Social links, Twitter, Discord, and website. And here's the most important part, right? So here's the bonding phase, right? The creator's earning 0.24%, platforms at 0.96, and then Meteora, which is our technology partner, is at 0.3. But here's the kicker. As soon as it graduates, the creator's earning at 1.596. So, and the platform's at 68. So this is roughly a 70-30 split. And then there's a compounding kind of component here where as volume continues to occur on your collection, on your fungible token, I should say, a portion of the fees goes to seed additional liquidity into the pool automatically.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, so in case there is a runner, there's a fart coin out there that reaches $1 billion, there's enough liquidity in there to sustain, whatever happens in that ecosystem.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as a creator, you can pre-buy, and then you just launch a token. It's less than $1 to launch, right? And you're just interacting with these smart contracts. All right, so the key thing here is let's go look at what a Vibe Studio looks like. So I'm going to go into my profile, and I'm going to go to this tab called Vibe, My Vibes, and you'll see a list of vibes that I've already created. So I've been experimenting.
Yeah, yours will be blank.
Yeah, yours will be blank, and you can create as many vibes as you want. Typically, if you create one, you have to kind of edit the vibe in order to create another one. That way it keeps it a little bit cleaner. But yeah, this is what it looks like. So let's just jump into my dog vibe here. And then as soon as you get into this page, what you're going to see is this little pop-up. And it says that the Vibe Studio is in alpha, right? And so if I close this, you'll see that there's an AI chat over here. And so you can interact with this AI. And there's going to be free tokens for everybody at the very beginning. But you're actually interacting with real AI. So you have to pay for these tokens, right? And so because this is an alpha, like all funds are, final and all that stuff. And that's what this little indicator states. But like I said, if you have your own agent, you can click on this View API tab, and you can create your API key completely free. And then click on Docs and then copy all, right? As soon as you copy all these API endpoints, and there's a ton of them here, then you can send that to your agent, and your agent will completely understand how to use the platform, right off the bat. And then so you just talk to your agent, say, I want to create this collection. Here's what I want to create. And it'll start using these endpoints to actually create everything.
It's literally the Matrix floppy disk.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you upload like the software program and your agent just, I know Kung Fu.
Yeah, that's right. I know Vibe Studio, right?
I know NAT.FUN.
Yeah.
I'm ready to chop some shit up.
Yeah, that's right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so this is a pretty advanced sort of kind of like tool here that you'll be able to actually, let's say I can grab I can grab all the layers that it has generated, and you can actually position them where you want, just in case. And you could use AI to generate the image layers and everything.
Yeah, that's important to kind of emphasize, right? It's like, AI is great, but it's not like a one-shot tool.
Yeah, yeah. You have to actually work on it. You can't just like say, I want to create an alien collection and don't make any mistakes. Like that's not how this works.
Yeah, get you a starting point.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the usefulness of it. It builds you a solid foundation so long as you're able to, properly verbalize your vision with it. And then our tool allows you to, get down to the granular level to get the precision down.
Right? That's right. That's right.
Which, if you're truly a top tier Viber, that's going to make all the difference. And the thing that's really cool about this is you can iterate in public and kind of broadcast this intent, meaning like through the Vibe feed.
Yeah.
Right. So every time you come up with a new iteration or a new change to the Vibe, is like, all right, I have this token that's trading live.
Yeah.
I'm creating a dog collection, but the market doesn't seem to resonate with my dog.
Yeah.
Let me switch it up to cats.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you create a new Vibe that's, around cats. You post that to your Vibe feed. Now the market kind of sees this new phase of iteration. Oh, shit, I love this one. People will typically signal that feedback through the spot price of your token, right?
That's right.
Meaning they'll buy some because they want ownership of your collection once it's done.
That's right. Yeah, and again, this tool gives you access to the code, right? So this is your code, and you can, if you're a developer, you can start modifying the code, which will modify the preview screen here. Or if you don't know how to code, just talk to your AI to edit these things, or talk to your agent to also edit this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then if you could also start with a Vibe, right? You start with a Vibe, and then you can actually launch the token from here. It'll take you to the launch token page. So I guess the other thing to show is this is what a launched token looks like. Pre-graduation. So this is the Vibe feed, and it shows the entire history of development in this like little modal. And so you could build your collection at the beginning, and like Iron Man was saying, it's like, what if people are not really enjoying the dog collection, right?
Yeah.
And so I switch it to a cat collection, right? Just by telling the AIs, like, I'd rather do cats. And then people could come here and see the history and progression of like how this collection has kind of morphed. So you could just imagine a bunch of rows indicating, the history. And so this is what the BlockPad looks like without any mints. And I can just kind of show you so this is again 2016. And yeah, so that's the BlockPad. And so once it graduates, then you will see a bunch of these NFT dogs in here, so that you can list them, you can buy them, and do price discovery.
Yeah, so it's going to be up to the community, the participants of this market, and the creators themselves to form that synergy with each other.
Yeah,
to kind of co-vibe this thing, right? Because both ends have responsibilities, right? People who are participating on this token launch, what are you going to do once your Vibe is distributed and it's trading on the secondary marketplace of NFTs? You've got to build cultural and community momentum around that, right? Why? It's to pique attention in the market, because this is the game we're all playing. It's an attention market. It's an attention economy. You're creating content of any format. Mm-hmm. You're in competition with other people doing the same thing, right?
That's right. That's right.
This is a new class of content creation, right? And it just so happens to be tokenized, you know?
Yeah.
And this whole ecosystem will likely expand down the road to encompassing much more like broader spectrum capture of content creation, right? Meaning at some point you'll be able to Vibe videos.
Oh yeah,
natively on our platform and be broadcasting again like those vibes in public as you're concocting a video. And why is that important? Well, you're really good at that. You could be the next AI fruit guy or whatever it is, right? Whatever the next AI video trend is, you have a community backing that effort to this platform, right? Yeah. So be sure to go to NAT.FUN and actually provide your Twitter handle, because you'll get one of these, right? So you're actually claiming a block of Bitcoin at the platform level. So we'll talk about later as to what this is for, but you can go into the map here,
and you can sort of see like all the blocks on Bitcoin, and then everyone who's claimed a block here.
Yeah, thanks. So far, like we're inching closer to 1,000 blocks claimed so far.
Yeah.
And yeah, so far in Bitcoin's time chain history, there's roughly 950,000 blocks, something like that.
Yeah, 950,000. Yeah.
So yeah, call it 1 million. There's basically 1 million blocks up for grabs.
Yeah.
And once they're all claimed, you know, you're gonna have to. Only 144 get produced on a daily basis, right? So there's a little bit of like a scarcity element here because, you know, you have to assume if it's 1 for 1, 1 million users has to onboard into this platform, which is very achievable. I mean, Pump at its peak, I think, has like 20-something million actual active registered users on their platform, right? So
yeah, so the blocks are pretty scarce.
Yeah, so if there's 20 million users of NAT.FUN one day, there's only 1 million blocks to go around, you know.
Yeah.
There's some value there, right?
Yeah, so last thing I'll show is on your profile page, here's the links to the API keys. But you were talking about like ecosystem, and I wanted to show this referrals link here. So this is a referrals link. I think you get roughly 5% of all transactions coming through this link. So you can share that if on Twitter so that people can join the platform. And then if they make a transaction, 5% goes to the actual referral link here. So yeah, that's huge. Another way for the community to kind of expand and benefit from the platform itself. So be sure to go and create a profile so that you have access to this stuff and, you know, start talking about the platform and hopefully generate some income for yourself.
Yeah. All right, dude. Good job. I think
that's it.
I think we tried our best to wrap it all up as quickly as we could.
Yeah.
30 minutes of chatter, but over a year of development.
Yeah. That's how it works.
It's pretty insane when you think about it. But yeah, this is definitely our biggest punch in regards to crypto.
Oh yeah. This platform has been very complex.
Yeah. Very complex. I mean, it's not just the platform, it's a whole like philosophical tenet behind it, and that took even more time to develop.
Yeah, this whole time we didn't even mention DMT.
I think I did a little bit, but yeah, you're right. Not to its fullest of extent and scope, which we can't because it takes too long.
Yeah, not the drug, but digital matter theory.
Right, or NAT,
or
which
NAT.
is on our shirt.
Yes.
So we didn't mention that either, but all of these things play significant part. It's part of the story, part of the premise, the purpose of this platform is going to be mainly factored into the culture that emerges from it.
Yeah.
Like the tokens that launch from it, I'm sure the deployers will discover the significance of DMT and how effective amplifying that will be in their creations, right? The market will likely center itself to that discovery process. Like, wow, this guy launched a token off of a discovered pattern that has some new property nobody really has talked about before. So therefore, it's innately more interesting than the rest.
And there's a lot of platforms to choose from, and you can find new patterns too.
Yeah.
And so the rabbit hole goes deep. So we're going to leave it open to the comment section for you guys to put in any questions that you have from the platform. So try it out. Let us know what you think. And also in the link here, if you guys want to provide some support or actually have some suggestions, there's a support link that you can just click and type in anything that you want, and then we'll get the feedback directly.
If it sucks, let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
This is so ass.
Yeah.
Whatever, dude. All comments are welcome for sure.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for us. Appreciate you for watching, and we will catch you in the next episode.
Peace.